Darrington Press just dropped new playtest material on the Void. Let's hop over there and take a look and see what we got. All right, this is the Void over on Daggerheart.com, the hub for playtest material. First up, we have the Witch class, which is a combination of Dread and Sage. Interesting. Hope feature, Witch's Charm. When you or an ally within far range rolls a failure, you can spend 3 hope to change that to a success with fear instead. Not a reroll here. You get to change it to a success, but with fear. Love that class feature. Hex. When a creature causes you or an ally within close range to mark any number of hit points, you can mark a stress to hex them. While hexed, they gain a penalty their damage thresholds equal to your spellcasting trait and a penalty to their difficulty equal to your tier. You can only have one target hexed at a time. That is amazingly strong, because having a penalty to your difficulty equal to your tier, which means at tier 4 that's a -4 to basically their AC, so they are significantly easier to hit. So if they had a difficulty of 16 and you would need to roll a 16 to hit, that is now a 12, which is basically pretty close to 50-50 on a couple of d12s before modifiers. And then commune. During a long rest, you can commune with an entity, an ancestor, deity, spirit, or aspect of nature. Ask them a question, then roll 4d6. If any of the dice have matching values, reference the chart below for the effect. If there are multiple matches, you get more than one effect. You witness a relevant scene play out. You see a vision relevant to your answer. You hear sounds relevant to the answer. You feel a sensation relevant to the answer. You smell an odor relevant to the answer, and you taste a flavor relevant to the answer. Interesting. So you gotta roll doubles, but you get one of these things. So it's not guaranteed for sure, but if you get a double sixes, you witness a relevant scene play out. All right. So Witch is quickly becoming my favorite class. If you saw my other video, this would be immediately going to the triple cool status. So you have Hedge or Moon. Foundation. When you take a downtime action that requires rolling, you can roll twice and take the higher result. Tethered Talisman. Once per rest, during a moment of peace, you can enchant a small object and give it to an ally to tether to them. When a tethered ally holds this object, when they are hit by an attack, you can expend the magic of the totem to deal 1 hit point to the attacker. Very cool. Hedge. Walk between worlds. Make spellcast roll in an area containing 1 or more dead bodies. On a success, you can watch the last few moments leading up to their death by bringing the surroundings of the past to life in spectral form. You can mark a stress during the spell to also hear the sounds that were made during this moment in time. On a failure, the body turns to dust. Enhance Augury. Increase the amount of dice you roll for your commune to 6d6. That is just dripping with flavor. That is probably one of my favorite subclass cards that I have read up until this point. Circle of Power. Once per rest, mark a circle on the ground up to very close range and place a number of tokens equal to your spellcasting trait on this card. Each time you make an action roll or are hit with an attack, remove a token. This spell lasts until you've spent your last token or you step out of the circle. While within the circle, you gain a +4 to your damage thresholds, +2 to your attack rolls, and +1 to your evasion. All very strong. And now we have Moon. When you are in Moonlight, you have a +1 bonus to your spellcast rolls. Cool. Ire of Pale Light. When a creature within far range that you have cursed with your hex fails an attack roll, they must mark a stress. Very interesting. Moonglow. Mark a stress to glamour yourself and create a magical facade over your form. Your glamour automatically drops the next time you take damage or at your next rest. While glamored, you can take the form of any creature of your approximate size that you've seen, enhance your own appearance, gain advantage on presence rolls, and leverage this change to its purpose. Very interesting, very witchy, very Stardust witchy. And then Lunar Phases. During a long rest, instead of communing, you can roll your communion die to alter your form. If any of the dice have matching values, refer to the chart below for the effect. If you have multiple matches, choose one. If none match, choose a different downtime action. The effect lasts until your next rest. Gain a +1 bonus to your evasion. Gain a +2 to all damage rolls. You can always spend a hope to reduce minor damage to none. So very Moon focused. And these are the dread domains. So we went through these when we went through the warlock. I don't know if there are any changes to them, but there are some pretty cool ones in here that I'm thinking will work really well with this class and subclass. Things like spectral mist, even shared trauma, being able to move hit points between one another, summoning horrors, summoning a lot of different summoning spells, terrify, umbral veil, awesome stuff coming from the witch class, a combination of the dread and sage domains, which I think is a cool combination of domains. All right, let's pop back over to the void for our second, the assassin class, which is a combination of Midnight and Blade. All right, what do we got here? Let's look at our hope feature. Grim Resolve. Spend 3 hope to clear 2 stress. Not awesome, but also not horrible. Now we have our class feature, Ambush. When you move into melee and make a successful weapon attack, you can mark a stress to force the target to make a reaction roll with a difficulty equal to 10 plus your level. On failure, increase the damage of your attack by a number of d6 equal to your tier. Not horrible. Get in and get out. Spend a hope to ask the GM for either a quick or inconspicuous way into or out of a building or structure that you can see. The next roll you make, capitalize on that information, has advantage. Very flavorful. Not the strongest combination of hope and class features for the assassin. Cool combination of domains, but a little lackluster when it comes to the abilities. Executioner's Guild. First strike. The first successful attack you make during a scene deals double damage. Awesome. Your ambush feature uses d8s instead of d6s. Not bad. Death Strike for our specialization. When you deal severe damage to a creature, they must mark an extra hit point. That's strong. That's just basically a straight up 25% increase in damage. You gain a +2 bonus to your evasion against all attacks made by the creature you most recently dealt damage to. Not bad. True Strike. Once per long rest, you can mark a stress to change an attack roll that you made from a failure to a success with hope. That's really awesome, especially if you're combining that with your first strike. So that now we're definitely dealing damage on the first strike. And then Surprise Attack. The reaction roll triggered by your ambush feature increases from 10 plus your level to 13 plus your level. So really putting that emphasis on that first attack. And now we have the Poisoner's Guild. I love poisons. I like assassins with poisons. So hopefully this is cool. Now, I think we're going to get some creation of poison. Toxic Concoction. Mark a stress to add 1d4 plus 1 tokens to this card. You know these poisons. Gordon's Root. The target's difficulty gains a permanent -1 penalty. You can only affect them once. Gravesport. The target must also mark a stress. Leechweed. Gain a 1d6 bonus to damage on this attack. On a successful weapon attack, you can spend a token from this card to afflict the target with a known poison's effect. Very interesting. This I really like. Poison Compendium. You also know these poisons. Midnight's Veil. The target gains a permanent -2 penalty to attack rolls. You can only affect them once. Ghost Petal. Permanently decrease the damage dice of the target's standard attack by 1 step. D10 down to D8, etc. This can only affect them once. And then Adder's Blessing. You are immune to poisons and other toxins. Makes sense? And then Venomancer. You also know these. Blightseed. The target gains a permanent -3 penalty to their damage thresholds. This can only affect them once. Fearleaf. This damage from this attack gains a bonus equal to the result of your fear die, and then Twin Fang. When you afflict a target with a known poison's effect, you can spend an additional token to inflict them with a second known poison. Really enjoying that part of it. Not as much of a fan of the hope and class features, but the poisoner subclass is pretty good. I will say the rest of it, glad this is in playtest, could use a little work. I think with a witch also, is very cool, but I also think there's stuff in there that is very strong. There's new ancestries and new communities. So 6 new ancestries. Earthkin. After marking number of hit points, you can spend +2 hope to gain a +1 bonus to your damage thresholds that last until your next rest. Tectonic Attack. You can strike the ground with your weapon, erupting the earth in a cascade fissure. When you do, you make a weapon attack against all targets in a line within very close range. Any targets you succeed against take 1d8 magic damage using your proficiency and are temporarily restrained. Tidekin. Oh, so these are like the Genasi, really. Tidekin are descendant of water elementals. They are humanoids whose bodies are combined of flesh and water. Once per session, you can use a small amount of water from your surroundings to heal an ally within melee range. When you do, clear a hit point from the target. Water Whip. You can pull water from the environment around you to use an attack. When you do, treat it as a finesse weapon with close range that deals d6 magic damage using your proficiency. If you're within close range of a body of water, you can spend a hope to give the attack far range instead of d10 damage instead. Then this is going to be our fire elemental. Incinerate or mark a stress to light yourself ablaze until you take major damage or more. While ablaze, any adversaries who end their attack in melee range must mark a stress. Fire shot. You unleash a projectile of fire towards the target within far range. They must make a reaction roll against the target against your level of +10. On a failure, they take d10 plus 5 magic damage using your proficiency. On a success, you must mark a stress and the GM gains a fear. Then the Skykin. Once pressed, you can call upon the wind to pick you up and carry you to a point you can see within very far range. That's very cool. Gale Force. To conjure a wind attack, making an instinct roll against all targets in front of you within very close range. Any targets you succeed take d6 magic damage using your proficiency and are forced back. So instead of being restrained, they're forced back. An Aetherus. So these are like a celestial. Solid Soul. When you roll with hope, instead of gaining hope, you can instead spend a hope to clear a stress. Divine Wings. You can call forth your divine wings and fly. While flying, you can mark a stress to pick up and carry a willing creature approximately your size or smaller. While your wings are revealed, you gain advantage on rolls to command or intimidate a target. And then Gnome, the good old-fashioned David the Gnome. Gnomes are small humanoids and most easily recognized by their dense musculature, long arms, and large facial features. They have nimble fingers. When you make a finesse roll, you can spend 2 hope to re-roll your hope die. And magical sense. You can sense the presence of other magical creatures. You have advantage on rolls to track or locate creatures with magical ability. That is very cool. All right, we have some communities here too. Duneborn, Oasis. Throughout the heat of the day and the cold of the night, you know how to take care of your people. Once per rest call, during a moment of calm, you can clear a stress on all allies within very close range or clear a hit point on all allies within very close range. Very cool. We've been talking about how much water you would need to consume in order to wear armor in the heat that is currently plaguing New England, so this would definitely help in that. Preborn, Unbound. Once per session, you can make an action roll with fear. You can instead change it to a roll with hope. Nice. Frostborn, Long Winter. You know how to make resources last. Once per long rest, when you choose to repair all armor, you can also repair an ally's armor up to half of their base armor score. Very cool. Hearthborn. Coming from a Hearthborn community means you come from a group of humble origins, having lived in a small village or in the countryside. Hobbits. Close-knit. When you help an ally, you can instead spend 2 hope to make the advantage die a d10 instead of a d6. Wow. That's actually really cool. Reborn. You were once a member of another community, but you can no longer remember it. Found family. Once per session, you can spend a hope to use an ally's community ability. When you do, your ally gains a hope. At any point, when you've discovered the community that you were once part of or have joined a new community, you can permanently trade this community card for that one instead. That's very interesting, and I think that is very cool. The ability to not know where you came from, but then figure it out and then, be able to use it and personify it, I think is very, when you're developing a story, I think is very cool. Moorborn, Brave Face. Once per rest, you can mark 2 stress instead of an armor slot to reduce incoming damage by a threshold. That is a lot of really great uses and a lot of great synergy with a lot of the current classes. Awesome, we are already seeing additional ancestries in communities on the Void. We now also have an updated Brawler and an updated Warlock. I wonder if they have like a little spot where it says the changes. No, it does not. So I don't think I'm going to go over it right now because it's probably going to take me a little bit longer to figure out. In favor, hope. Yeah, so I'm not going to dig into this right now because I'm going to have to figure out what changes they were. This was from the previous the Void video, but right now, again, we have new Ancestries communities, 2 new classes, 4 new subclasses, all available on the Void. The Witch, so cool. Love the fact that they're using the domain of Dread and Sage combined. Assassin, another cool one. Midnight Blade needs some work, I think. In my opinion, their class feature, their hope feature is a little bit lacking, especially compared to what they're putting forth here with the Witch and what we previously seen in the Warlock and the Brawler class. But again, all great cool stuff coming from Darrington Press here on the Void. Check it out. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Be sure to like and subscribe for more great Daggerheart content. We'll see you next time.